Hello and welcome to the channel. Organized labor called off its proposed strike action set to have commenced tomorrow. Dialogue continues with the federal government in the meantime as they are scheduled to meet again on the 19th of June 2023. But the Trade Union Congress TUC has made a demand of the government for a 200 naira increase as minimum wage, saying the money used in paying for subsidy previously could be channeled into workers' salaries as well as other infrastructures. Subscribe, like, share, and comment. Thank you. TUC demands 200,000 naira minimum wage. The Trade Union Congress of Nigeria TUC demanded payment of a new minimum wage of 200,000 naira monthly. It also demanded that the government reverted to the old 185 naira pump price of petrol per litre to allow for a conducive environment for negotiation. In a statement, the President and Secretary General Festus Osifo and Nuhu Toro, respectively, TUC said, for immediate implementation, status quo ante of PMS pump price should be maintained while discussion continues. The minimum wage should be increased from the current 30,000 naira to 200,000 naira before the end of June 2023, with consequential adjustments on the cost of living allowance, COLA, like feeding, transport, housing, etc. A representative of state governors will be party to this communique, and all the governors must commit to implement the new minimum wage. Talks holiday for employees both in government and private sector that earn less than 200,000 naira or $500 monthly, whichever is higher. PMS allowance to be introduced for those earning between 200,000 naira and 500,000 naira or $500 or $1,200, whichever is higher. The exchange rate for retailing PMS in the country must be kept within a limit of 2% for the next 10 years, where the fluctuation is more than 2%. The minimum wage will automatically increase at the same rate. Setting up of intervention fund, where the government will be paying 10 naira per litre on all locally consumed PMS. The primary purpose of this fund is to solve perennial and protracted national issues in education, health, and housing. A governance structure that will include labor, civil society, and government will be put in place to manage the implementation. Federal government should provide mass transit vehicles for all categories of the populace. State governments should immediately set up a subsidized transportation system to reduce the pressure on workers and students. The framework around this will be worked out. Immediate review of the National Health Insurance Scheme to cover more Nigerians and prevent stock of drugs. Visitation of the refineries that are currently undergoing rehabilitation to ascertain the state of work and setting up a timeline for its completion. The President should direct whoever will be Labor Minister to immediately constitute the National Labor Advisory Council, NLAC. This platform will be used by the government, labor, and employers to discuss issues and policies of the government that may affect workers and all other mandates as specified in the law. Provision of subsidy directly for food items. The $800 million could be a first step. The existing National Housing Fund, NHF, should be made accessible to genuine workers. The framework on this must be discussed and agreed. TUC also said the medium term would include the deployment of compressed natural gas, CNG, across the country, in line with the earlier promise made by the government. The framework and timeline will be developed and agreed by both parties. Labor and government to design a framework that will be geared towards the reduction of cost of governance by 15% in 2024 and 30% by 2025. A framework should be immediately put in place to maintain roads and expand the rail networks across the country. Government must design a framework for social housing policy for workers through a rent-to-own system. the state of electricity in the country must be appraised and an action plan should be defined with timelines on how to get this fixed. Subscribe, like, share, comment, and please turn the notification bell on. Thank you. Meanwhile, the meeting between the federal government and the labor unions ended on Monday with a resolution to reconvene on June 19 to agree on the implementation framework of the resolutions reached. Mr. Femi Gbajabiamila, Speaker of the House of Representatives, who led the government side, disclosed this at the end of a meeting between labor and government representatives at the Presidential Villa, Abuja. He said that the meeting agreed on a 7-point resolution to cushion the effect of the subsidy removal on premium motor spirit (PMS) on Nigerians. The federal government, the TUC, and the NLC to establish a joint committee to review the proposal for any wage increase or award and establish a framework and timeline for implementation. The federal government, the TUC, and the NLC to review the World Bank financed cash transfer scheme and propose the inclusion of low-income earners in the program. The federal government, the TUC, and the NLC to revive the CNG conversion program earlier agreed with labor centers in 2021 and work out detailed implementation on timing, Gbajabiamila said. The news agency of Nigeria now reports that compressed natural gas, CNG, is a fuel gas mainly composed of methane, compressed to less than 1% of the volume it occupies at standard atmospheric pressure. It is the cleanest burning fuel operating today and brings about less vehicle maintenance and longer engine life. Gbajabiamila added that the meeting also agreed to review issues hindering effective delivery in the education sector and propose solutions for implementation. The labor centers and the federal government to review and establish the framework for completion of the rehabilitation of the nation's refineries. The federal government to provide a framework for the maintenance of roads and expansion of rail networks across the country. All other demands submitted by the TUC to the federal government will be assessed by the joint committee. He stressed that the NLC agreed to suspend the notice of strike forthwith to enable further consultations. That's the news, guys. Thanks for listening. Until next time, bye.